3 capital X's at the beginning of any of these issues. So we could grep for XXX and find all the work that we had to do. So we knew the book was done when we could grep for XXX and we'd not find a single thing in any of our tech files. We had professional editing done by the proofreader. The picture drawing was by this outsourcing company called ICC. Literally, drafts of this book had diagrams that were actually drawn on a napkin and checked into the repository.
You should use RT for that.
I thought about that. I really almost created an RT queue for book-related issues. And RT, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is the request tracking software made by Jesse Vincent. It is it's the best way to manage your users. You know, tell them to send mail to help, and it goes in this. It's assigned a ticket number. Never loses an issue. Chapter 27 also talks about, yes?
Is that at all like jitterbug?
What?
Is that at all like jitterbug?
Is that like gnats?
Like RT, is that like
yes.
jitterbug?
Yes, I think it is. Is jitterbug a bug tracking system?
It's bug tracking, but it's email based.
Yes, it's similar. However, the nice thing about the difference between tracking bugs and tracking user requests is that bugs are something that gets filed once or twice a day. They're usually fairly well considered, and there's minimal interaction because of that. User requests have to be much more dynamic in the communication flow. So RT is really tuned to being more of a communication tool for communicating with customers rather than something like Remedy, which is a commercial bug tracking and user request tracking system whose focus seems to be on generating the statistics that management wants and screw quality communication with the customers. But the really great thing about Remedy is it's really expensive, but it's so slow. The other thing about Remedy is it justifies hiring a full-time programmer just to maintain it because it's a toolkit, which means it doesn't do anything. So
installed RT at home. I've never had a touch it since installing it. They say
yeah.
it's as a to-do list on the product trail.
Yeah.
Really nice for that.
A friend of mine has a little public access. Okay. So one of the things I do as a hobby is I run a co-location facility as a collective. We have a friend with a basement and a couple racks and a little bandwidth, and we have a bunch of servers, and it's run as an autonomous collective. Because we have no king. Anyway, one of the people in the collective now runs RT, and if any of the users on his little FreeBSD box have an issue, he just says, "Oh, send mail to help. I'll take care of it." And it's like, wait, but this is an amateur thing, and you're running this, professional request tracking system. He says, "It saves me time." It's great. And the programmer for RT, Jesse Vincent. I remember his email address better than his actual name. If it doesn't have a feature that you want, he can be hired. So it's open source the way I think open source should be. I have a very capitalistic view of open source. Gee, I really wish I had this feature. Who can I pay to add that feature? And he lives nearby. Yeah, he's in this town. There's a couple universities that are basically, giving him enough money to pay rent because he's, you want that feature? Okay. My landlord needs $500 by Thursday. What color would you like it? So, chapter 27 talks a lot about communications. I'm going to give you the nutshell summary. There's 4 kinds of communication problems in the world. There's my problems, there's your problems, there's our problems, and then there's other people's problems. And each of these different communication situations has a different skill set that you need to develop to do that effectively. And we go through a number of the skills. I've listed some here. If it's my problem, I have to use what social workers call I statements, which is a way of effectively communicating my problem to you, which is, combine, you say, I feel emotion when you do whatever. So I feel frustrated when you make engineering decisions without consulting the system administration team. That is an effective way of communicating to your boss. It's much more effective than saying, you bastard! Because your boss isn't going to understand the problem. When someone comes to you with a problem, you're dealing with one of those your problems. You have a problem, and I have to first figure out what the hell you're talking about, because you're not smart enough to use an I statement. And then make sure I've really understood you, and then brainstorm and help you solve that. So you have techniques like mirroring, reflection, and summary statements. And in the tutorial we're teaching at Lisa, we actually go through some of these. Reflection is a technique for dealing with a very angry person. So if someone comes to you and is very emotional, I can't believe the network's down when this project's due and blah, 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 blah. The first thing a technical person always tries to do is deal with the technical side. Oh, well, the network will be up soon and it's actually been very reliable lately, but a person that's emotional doesn't want to hear that. A person that is in an emotional state cannot deal with the problem until you've dealt with their emotions. So reflection is a tool for doing that, and it's so simple. You say, gosh, you're really, and name the emotion that you're seeing. So the book gives you more tips. Don't try this at home until you've read the chapter. But basically, when that person comes screaming, you say, wow, you're really upset about this. And it disarms the person. First it says, I'm being listened to. Oh, I was pissed running down this hallway and I was getting all charged up. I'm going to give this person a piece of my mind. And you've communicated to that person, oh, they got the point. The point is that I'm pissed off. And it also humbles them a little. Oh, I'm showing much more anger than I had intended. I know this because he said, gosh, you're really upset about this. Which was not the reaction I was expecting. And so now this calms the person down. And then they, yes, I'm upset. And then they calm down. Oh, okay, goal accomplished. He knows I'm upset. And then you can say, we're working on it. The network is, we have our top people working on bringing the network up. And the person can rationally deal with this. So that's something you'll never find in a man page. Our problems are sort of a combination. When you and I have a problem and we have to go to our boss and explain it, first we have to use those I statements and negotiation to make sure that we understand, we're on the same page, and then we can go to the boss and use our problem skills and make sure that they're communicated to the boss right. Other people's problems and non-problems are, well, the first skill is to figure out that, oh, this is a non-problem, and the second skill is restraint. If someone else has a problem, you have to not do anything. If they've brought it to you and said, I need you to help fix it, well, now it becomes your problem. But until that happens, you need to back off. I know a number of people who spend half of their day being very concerned with other people's problems. They really should use some restraint and get back to work. Now, unless that person comes to them and says, I want you to fix this.
I thought by restraint you meant...
You mean not laugh? Oh, I thought you meant you need to tie the person up. That's a different workshop that I teach. And in that workshop, we also talk about negotiation.
Is there a hands on left?
Sadly, I get yes. Is there a hands-on lab? No, but I do some demos. So it's amazing how much negotiation you have to do when you're writing a book, especially with someone else. Now the book does have, we claim it's the first Sysadmin book that has a section on salary negotiation. And I have to just brag for 1 second. One of our reviewers, the reviewers sign non-disclosures and they're not supposed to, share the book until it's printed, but this one reviewer in California showed the salary negotiation section to a friend who had just gotten her master's in social work and was offered, I think, well, I don't know the exact amount, but was given an offer for her first job out of social work school, and she used the technique in the salary negotiation class, and I'm told that the next time we go to California, this person will be buying me dinner because she is being paid the highest starting salary that this organization has ever paid. So we're very proud of this. But negotiation is something you have to constantly do when you're working with someone else. So Christine and I had to negotiate with each other on many different issues. What font are we going to use? What are the headings going to look like? But also we had to negotiate.
How are you leaving that part to the publisher?
What?
How are you leaving the formatting to the publisher?
We did, but they gave us 5 samples and said, which format would you like? So we had to sign a contract with the publisher, and so that involved lawyers. I had to sign a contract with my employer. I changed employers while writing this, and Bell Labs has a very liberal book writing policy. Their employees write a book. The Bell Labs gets the copyright, but the employee gets all the royalties. But you have to sign a "we're starting the process" contract. When I changed employers, I had to write a contract that dissolved the contract with Bell Labs, and Bell Labs transferred the rights to my new employer, and I had a contract with the new employer because they had a similar. Actually, when I joined, they asked me to sign an intellectual property agreement, which I had many revisions because it had to be at least as liberal as the Bell Labs contract. Now, luckily, this new company was receiving funding from Bell Labs, and about half of us were ex-Bell Labs employees, so there was, this was not. So this was a happy negotiation, but it was interesting. Yes.
Were you writing the book on company time? Is that why you had to do all that, or?
No. Some people in Bell Labs, if you are a PI, a principal investigator, so if you're a high-ranking researcher, you can write a book on company time. You'll then.
If you read most of the agreements, the IP agreements you have to sign with companies when you start, I did one about 2 weeks ago. It basically says we own everything you think.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you have to pre-negotiate and say, okay, strike out any work I do on non-company related free software projects. For instance, I put a couple in and said, this work that I do, I will not do on company time, it doesn't belong to you, and you agree to that. And so all that had to be done.
Yeah.
Big priority. I'm assuming.
Exactly. And Lumeta has this process where I submit what I'd like to publish externally. They give me a receipt. 10 days later, they have to release it, say that I can release it, or tell me what parts are too proprietary to release. And if they don't respond in 10 days, the default is that I get to publish. So the next book that I want to write is going to be like pornographic, so that I can say, well, I'd give you a copy, but that would violate our sexual harassment policy. You could come to my house and I'll show it to you. What?
You just put in one photo like that.
Right. Let's see, other negotiation stuff. Oh, so we talked about negotiation, the salary aspects and also non-salary issues, vendor negotiation, and general negotiation tips. For example, buying a car, and the fact that if you have a lot of issues to negotiate on, it's best to do the no-brainers first, and then work up to the more contentious issues. And if one of the things you thought was a no-brainer turns into a contentious issue, just stop and say, okay, let's move on and get back to that later. Psychologically, that builds trust by doing the things you agree on first, and then you build up to more contentious issues. Namespaces. So we're big namespace geeks. A well-planned namespace saves you a huge amount of time in the future. I'm very pissy about how our automount maps are structured, because to me this is, if you screw that up, all your future projects are going to be